If you're a med spa owner or an injector and you feel like you work so hard throughout the month to make money, and at the end of the month you check your bank account and you're wondering where the money is. You made all this revenue, but you're keeping so little of it. And you can't really put anything back in your pocket, and you don't know if you have much to reinvest into your business, or even just keep the lights on. I made this video because a lot of our clients don't know their margins. They don't know the gross or the net margin, and they're really afraid of even working them out. One, because they're afraid of doing the calculations, and two, because they think it's low, so they don't want to actually see it. So I've made this sheet that literally makes everything so easy. You don't have to do any calculations. You just put your numbers in, and it will calculate everything automatically for you. But first, I'm going to talk about why these numbers are so important to know and the advantage that you're going to get over your competitors who don't know these numbers. I'm going to show an example of two med spas that make the exact same revenue, and one of them is taking home double the amount. So two of them will make $100,000 in revenue, top line revenue per month, and one of them will keep $30,000 in net profit in their pocket. The other one's only going to keep $15,000, and they have the same exact price. And so I'm going to show you how that's possible. And when you actually get these numbers for your own business, you're going to start playing around with them and seeing that, oh, if I change this or if I change this, I can make this much more money per year or per month. And it's going to be very clear. And I think you're going to grow your business if you take the time to fill this sheet out. So first, I'm going to explain what the numbers are, show how to use this sheet, and then show the example of two med spas that make the same amount of money, but one of them keeps way more because they know how margins work. So first, we're going to start with gross profit because that's the most important one. Because if there's no gross profit, you can't even begin calculating your net profit because the net is coming out of the gross. So the gross profit is the money that's left from a treatment after you pay for what it takes to do that one treatment. For example, product, injector time, supplies, and processing fees. Gross profit is not what's left after rent, staff salaries, software, marketing, or other monthly bills. Those come after the gross profit. That will be part of the net profit that we'll calculate after. And not knowing your gross profit is like injecting with your eyes closed. You never do that, obviously, but you're operating blindly. You don't know how to price or how much you can reasonably invest. So people who don't know their margins, whenever they run promotions or change their prices, it's literally just random. Like they don't think like if I have this pricing, I'll make this much, which allows me to reinvest this much. It's not thought out. It's just like, oh, I feel like charging this much because I just want to. It's not really a good way to operate. So what is a good gross profit? If you're earlier on in your business and you're not getting consistent bookings, it's okay to run lower margins. Like even if you're at 30 to 40% gross margins, it's not a big problem in the beginning, in my opinion. The reason I say this is because when you're just getting started, the point is to get good, not to make a bunch of money, in my opinion anyway. Because when I started, um, like I was doing it for free, so there is no margin on something that's free. But when you do it for free, you get a lot of reps. And when you get a lot of reps, you get good. And when you get good, you can charge money and you can make the margins that you want. But if you're trying to make money from the very beginning and not trying to get good, then you're just not gonna win. So if you're just starting out, it's fine to be lower margins as long as you're getting the experience and getting better. If you're consistently getting bookings and you feel like you're established, 70 to 60 to 70% is a healthy place to be in to reinvest in your growth. But you want to be as high as possible. Like 80% would be ideal, and even higher than that, then you're doing amazing. So that's what gross profit is. And now I'm going to show how to actually calculate the gross profit with this sheet. So we've got the service price, the monthly treatments that you're doing for that service. Let me actually just go through these one by one instead of saying them all at the same time. So I'm going to be giving an example here of just lip filler, but you can put all your services in here. And it will work for any treatment. I'm just making this specifically for the injectables because that's what we help you with. So if you want to add anything else, even if it's not injectables, like it's still gonna work. It's just a calculation. I just label this for simplicity. So let's say with lip filler, I charge $500. I'm going to put 500 here. So, everything that's in white, you're going to type in, and everything that's in yellow is going to calculate automatically for you. So yeah, lip filler, let's say that's $500. Monthly treatments is going to be how many of those services do I do every month, right? So if it was lip filler, I'm going to make this maths simple for you for this example. Let's say I was seeing 200 patients each month for lip filler at $500. It's going to tell me my monthly revenue of $100,000. For now, we can ignore that. We're going to use it later for the net margin, but for now, just ignore that. Everything else here, we're going to be filling this in for each individual service, right? So service price is $500. The units / syringes used per treatment. This is how many syringes or how many units do I use for that one treatment. So if I do lip filler for $500, I'm going to say I used one syringe. Then it's going to ask for the cost per unit or cost per syringe. So let's say I was getting my syringes for $200. I'll put 200 in, and it's going to tell me that. Next, it's going to ask for injector pay per hour. So for this example, I'm going to say I have an injector that's helping me, and I'm paying her $60 an hour. Then I'm going to say for the time, you put the hours here, right? So if it's 1 hour, you put 1. If it's half an hour, you say 0.5, right? I'm going to say it takes 1 hour for her to inject. Then it's going to tell me my injector cost, which is $60. The next thing is supplies. So anything like gloves, needles, numbing agents, any aftercare kit, anything that you'd use that's an additional cost, just put it here. And then the next one is processing fees. So if you're using Cherry or Stripe or whatever, or your EMR has fees, put whatever fees you'd have for that treatment. So I'm going to put 10 here. Once you put all the expenses in and the price that you charge for that service, it's now going to tell you 3 numbers. First, it's going to tell you your total direct costs. The reason it says total direct costs is because gross profit only works with anything that affects that service directly. So if I had a front desk, like taking calls, that has nothing to do with the lip filler, so it's not a direct cost. So when I say direct cost, it means what are the exact costs associated with just that lip filler service that I did, right? So for this one, it's going to be $275 is the total direct cost. Then it's going to tell me the gross profit and the gross margin. Difference between these, gross profit is the dollar amount that you're collecting in cash from every service. Gross margin is the percentage in profit, right? So gross profit here is $225 out of the 500 that I charged. And as a percentage, which is the gross margin, that's 45%. So I have 45% gross margin on my lip filler here. Now, once I use this gross profit sheet and I get my gross profit and my gross margin, I now want to calculate my net profit. So net profit is going to be on the second sheet. And on this net profit sheet, there's going to be 3 numbers that get pulled in from the other sheet automatically, which is these top 3 here. The total monthly revenue, it will pull that in automatically based on how many services you did at that price. The total direct costs, it's going to pull that in from the other sheet based on the revenue, and the gross profit is going to be based on the margin that we got from the other sheet. So these will get filled in automatically. The only ones that you now have to fill in are the other expenses to get your net profit and your net margin. So what is net profit? So net profit is the money left after you pay all of your bills for the month. For example, rent, staff salaries, and when I say staff here, it's going to be the non-injectors because we already calculated the injector salaries inside the gross profit. So anyone who's not an injector, like front desk or a manager or any other role, that would be the other salaries that go into here. Software, marketing, insurance, medical director, and your own salary. So whatever you take out of the business as the owner came out of the business. And so that's going to count as another expense because it's not staying in the business. Net profit is not just what's left from one treatment after product and injector time. That was the gross profit that we just did. So yeah, it's what's left after gross profit pays for the rest of your business. And if you don't know your net profit, then you don't have any idea if you're actually getting ahead. You don't know how much you can pay yourself, how much you can reinvest, or how close you are to burning out and actually running out of money. Like you wouldn't want to be in that position. And if you've been getting along now without knowing your net profit and your gross profit, like you know that you're profitable at least, but it's better to know how profitable you are than just know if you're profitable or not, because you're in business. So what is a good net profit? If you're still building demand and you're still in the phase that I was talking about in the other one, where you're just trying to get your name out there and get good, if you're at lower margins like 15, 10, 15, 20, like it's not the end of the world. Again, the point is just to get good. Now, when you're consistently booked and you're growing, 20 to 30% is healthy for an established med spa, especially if you're doing a lot of volume of sales. And obviously, the higher you can get that, the better. The bigger your brand gets, the higher you can have your margins, because I've seen this. The clients who have the most social proof, like they don't look at other people's pricing. They charge so much more, and they get their products for so much cheaper too. And so, like they make way more money than everyone else, but it's because of the brand. And so these are just good benchmarks, but don't think that that's the be all end all, or however you say that saying, end all be all. All right, so everything from the gross profit got pulled into this sheet. So all that's left first to do is add the additional expenses to get the net of what's left after everything. So the total monthly revenue that we have here from the lip filler is $100,000. And we had the total direct costs of fulfilling that of $55,000. So that left us with $45,000 in gross profit for the month, which is 45% margins. So now I'm going to add all the extra expenses, every single other expense that I have, to get my net. So let's say my rent or my lease is $5,000 per month. I'm going to put 5,000, and each thing I add is going to drop this net margin lower and lower and lower, as it's taken away from this. So let's say the front desk, for simplicity, I'm just going to say $5,000, right? Medical director, I'm going to say $5,000 as well, just for this example. Owner salary, you're the owner, so you can get some more. Say you take out $10,000 per month to pay yourself. Software slash EMR slash subscriptions. Let's say I'm spending $1,000 on that stuff each month. And then marketing, let's say I'm spending $4,000 a month on marketing. So that's going to calculate every expense or all overhead, and it's going to give me my net margin and my net profit. So now, total monthly revenue was $100,000, and my gross profit is $45,000, which is 45% margin. After all overhead, there's another $30,000 coming out. So that leaves me with net, what I actually keep, of $15,000 or 15% net margin, right? And this is not uncommon to see as a net margin, for a med spa. So now what I'm going to show you is how knowing these numbers could easily let you start working on things that could easily double your net profit if it was something that was as low as this. So I'm going to go back to the gross profit sheet, because the gross profit is what comes before the net profit. So the higher you can get the gross profit, the better, because it's going to leave you with more room to boost your net profit. Anytime you make an increase in the gross profit, it's going to look like a small improvement here because the number is bigger, but all of that drops straight down to your bottom line in the net profit. So I'm going to show you, for example, right now. So you can see here that I said, it's $500 for a service. We do 200, which is $100,000 per month. So now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start playing around with different numbers to see, like, oh, if I was able to get my syringes at this cost, or if I was able to pay somebody this much, this is how much more I would make. So let's say instead of having a cost per syringe of $200 per syringe, I was able to make a bulk order or negotiate, and I got it down to 150. So that takes my gross margin from 45% to 55%. And you might be thinking, oh, that's just a 10% increase. But let me show you how much of an impact that's going to make on your net profit. So now if I check the net profit sheet, you can see that instead of me just keeping $15,000 like I was before from the 100,000, I'm now keeping $25,000. And that's just from taking my cost per syringe from 200 to 50 to 150. So a lot of people know that if I increase my price here, I'm going to make more money or more margin, but they don't look at a lot of other things. I'll show you another one that you probably wouldn't think of, that can make you a lot more money. So let me put this back to 200. And let's say I'm back to my 45% margins. So yeah, let's say I sell a syringe for I get a syringe for $200 and I sell it for 500, and I'm paying this injector $60, right? And it takes her 1 hour to do the treatment. Let's say every patient that comes in to see you or your injector at your med spa, they have to sit down and they have to fill out their forms for 15 or 20 minutes. And then you have a conversation afterwards and you get numbed, and that takes whatever 10 or 15 minutes to get numbed again. And so every treatment's taking like an hour, and with this injector. What if there's a way to speed up your process so that everyone who comes in already has their forms completed? So that saves you 15, 20 minutes. And little things that take an extra 5 or 10 minutes, you just manage to trim them down, and you manage to get your injecting time from 1 hour to 30 minutes, right? Without reducing the quality and without making anybody unhappy and feeling like they're rushed. You still do a good job, but you just don't add unnecessary time to the appointment. And let's say we got that down from 1 hour to 30 minutes. Well, if you're doing it in half the time, then it's going to cost you half as much. And so that's going to increase your margins too. And so now, instead of me making 15,000, this is assuming you have the capacity to take extra appointments and you're not just like using that extra time to like take a holiday every time, and you actually fill it with more appointments, then the same thing would happen. So instead of you just keeping 15,000, you'd be keeping 21,000, right? And that's just assuming you cut your time in half. So if you cut your time in half and you also manage to get your syringes for $150 because you're growing and you're buying in bulk, now what's going to happen is you're going to go up to 31,000, right? So when you write out these numbers for your own business, you're going to start seeing which number is the easiest one that you can get a quick win to increase your profit. Um, Another one is the obvious one, which is the pricing. So if I was going to go back to my original numbers that had the 45% margins, um, put this at 1 hour. If I was doing it for $500 and that was netting me $15,000 on every $100,000 I made, if I go from $500 to $600, that's going to bring me to 54% margins. And that's going to make me 35,000 in gross profit. Sorry, $35,000 in net profit instead of just the 15,000, right? By going from 500 to $600. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll say, I want to make this much in profit every month. Let me just increase my price by this much. Now that's great. I love increasing pricing, but sometimes the market's not going to accept it that well if you make too big of a jump relative to how much value that they think you're providing. So let's say I was at $500 and I wanted to, let's say I just wanted to make my margins go up to the point where I was making more than 45%. And I had a goal of how much I want to keep each month. I want to reverse engineer that into my numbers. So For the lip filler, let's say I go up to 550 and I put that in, and I think it's not too big of a jump. So I put 550 in, and I would check my net profit. And I'm like, okay, if I had 550, I would make 25,000. Let's say I want to make more, but I don't want to increase my price anymore. What I would do is I'd go back here and I would check, okay, do I think I can call my rep, or I can, like, do I think I can call my rep to negotiate, or could I buy more product than I usually do so that I can get this down to 150 instead of 200? And if I do that, now my net profit's going to be $35,000 on 100, right? And do I think that my injector can be a little bit quicker? Like, maybe she won't get it down to half an hour, but maybe it could be like, I don't know, 40 minutes. Let me just do that. And like, the more you tweak it, the more your margin goes up. And so, like, I promise you, if you don't know these numbers and you weren't doing this, someone who is doing this actively and like consciously is gonna make more money than you, because like they just looked at the numbers like, oh yeah, if I just do this, this, and this, I'll just make way more money, and they're gonna have that much more money to reinvest. And so, if you were to fill this in, and you see that, okay, I can have this much extra in net profit, you're gonna know how much you can reinvest to get customers. Because if you know how much it costs you to get a customer, you can just reverse engineer this into the amount of customers that you're gonna buy every month to grow your business. Another thing you can do with this is, if you have multiple injectors and they have different prices, or they use different products that cost different amounts, or they get paid different amounts, or one of them's quicker and one of them is slower, then just add the other injector here, because you're actually going to make different margins on different injectors. So if I had this as lip filler injector 1, and then I had a lip filler injector 2 here, like, this one might be more experienced, so she might do it for $600, and she might be doing whatever 100 per month, and she uses the same one syringe, but her cost, maybe she likes a different product, so maybe it's more expensive or less expensive. Maybe you pay her more per hour because she's better. Um, but maybe she's quicker at doing the treatment because she's just more skilled, and maybe she doesn't talk as much. She might not be as friendly, but hey, she makes you more money. So you put that in there, and you're gonna see that I managed to make it the exact same margin. Actually, you're gonna see that different people have different margins, and what I've added here is the total margin for all services. So this is actually going to combine the average, and it will just tell you, like, if I had Botox, facial balancing, lip filler, and they all had different margins, it will tell you the average for all your services. So it will tell you your margin across every service for your entire business. So I want to show you a quick example for the Botox. When you're putting the service price in for the Botox, it's not going to be um it's not going to be the price per unit. It's going to be the price for the entire service. So if I sold like 60 units for $500, I would just put the total that they paid here. So I put 500 here, and then monthly treatments will be the same. So everything that you add here is going to add to the monthly revenue total, and it's going to all get combined up as the gross margin between all services. So yep, that's how you use this sheet. I'm going to link it so that you can get access to it. And basically everything that's in white, you can plug your numbers in, and everything, well, this is white. I should probably make a different color so it's, yeah. Everything that's white, you put your numbers. Everything that's not white will get calculated for you, and then you can know your numbers. So that's the video. Hopefully you found it useful. If you actually take 20 or 30 minutes to get your numbers and put them into this sheet and calculate them and know how much you're keeping, you're going to do much better than your competitors who are not doing this. Because the thing about business is that profit doesn't just occur. You actually have to force profit to occur. Like, you have to be intentional about the profit that you're making. And you have to tweak the numbers in such a way that you make the business that you want and make the amount of money that you want because you decided to make that much, not just because it happened by accident. So fill in your numbers, plug them in, make more money, reinvest more, or just take more out in distributions, and you're probably gonna like your business a lot more.